The more clarity and ownership your team has, the more freedom you'll have to lead, not just manage. And also, let's be honest here, the more freedom you'll have to create the life outside of business that you've always wanted to create.
My guest today is a dear friend of mine.
One of them goes, that one over there, she's big money. And it was my guest today.
Her name is Amy Porterfield.
Amy Porterfield, the ever amazing
best-selling author of 2 Weeks Notice, Miss Amy Porterfield.
There's nothing like waking up to your podcast day. I have so many podcasts I'm recording today, and your voice feels froggy, and your husband decides that today is the day that he is going to mow the lawn for like 5,000 hours. So I've been chugging the tea down with honey. I think I got my voice back to normal. I have no idea why it was froggy this morning. And Hobie has finally stopped mowing the lawn. Now, if you know anything about Hobie and his lawnmower and how he feels about our lawn, then you must be following me on Instagram, because that's where I share all of his weird shenanigans, but he's gotten a little bit obsessive. So I had to let the guy do his thing. He's done now. So here we go. So as I'm recording this, I'm gearing up for one of my most favorite seasons in my business, and that is the yearly launch of Digital Course Academy. So it doesn't go live until September, but I always start really early because delivering this program, it's a huge focus on my team. I show up live a bunch, I support my students in real time, and I pour everything into making it meaningful. And every time I plan a new launch, I get a little nostalgic because in one iteration or another, Digital Course Academy, we call it DCA, it's been with me through almost every major growth stage, from hitting my first million to hitting several million to even beyond. And here's what I've learned. Each of those milestones in my business, they required a different approach to scale. That's the beauty of entrepreneurship. If you stick with it and you really stay in your lane, you will see it continually grow. Every year, maybe not, but over several years, absolutely. So today, I'm doing something a little different. I'm going to walk you through what I would focus on if you were around 100K and you wanted to scale. And then if you were around 500K and you wanted to scale. And then finally, let's say you hit that $1 million mark. What does that look like to scale? Because scaling isn't a one-size-fits-all kind of thing. And what works at one stage usually needs to evolve to the next. So let's get to it. If you're looking to scale and you're around that 100K mark, then you need what I call the foundation phase playbook. This stage of business is all about refinement and building smart systems. This is a time to get clear on what it takes to run your business and pay yourself well. So here are the main steps in this playbook. First, if you're still in a 9-to-5 or taking on clients that aren't aligned with your ultimate vision, it's time to set your exit date. So you got to get really clear. I'm going to stay in my 9-to-5 for the next 6 months. I'm choosing a date. I'm putting it on a Post-it note, putting it somewhere I see every day, telling a few people to keep me accountable. I am going to move on from whatever this thing is that is not part of your bigger vision for your business. And then next, you're going to refine your core offer. So you're going to ask, what's already working and how can I do it even better? Because if you're around 100K in your business, you definitely have some things that are working. You're likely doing way too much. You're not staying in your lane as much as you probably should. I know all this because I've been there, and you might feel frazzled and messy, but there are some things in your business that if you really focused on them, you could optimize them and make sure that they start to grow without all the other noise that is likely distracting you right now. So the last time you promoted something, I want you to look at that and ask yourself, okay, so where did conversions drop off? Like, where did I have a hard time getting people to say yes? And what questions kept popping up when I was promoting this thing, whether it be a course, a membership, one-on-one coaching, group coaching, whatever it might be. So ask yourself, what were the questions I continued to get during my promotion? And what did your audience love? And what do you feel? Where do you feel like there was some crickets when you were trying to promote whatever it might be? So I want you to use exit surveys for people that didn't buy during your promotion. I want you to get on Zoom calls with people to see if you can get their feedback about why they did buy or what they do need. So do Zoom calls with your ideal customer avatar. You got to start asking questions and get the feedback you need to make your offer better. So you could do a lot of this in the DMs as well, as long as you instigate those conversations, because that could be a gold mine as well. So someone replies to something you post on, let's say Instagram, and they show some interest, start a conversation with them to learn more about who they are and what they want. And you want to resist the urge to add a second offer too early. So if you're, let's say, between 100K and 500K, you shouldn't have a bunch of offers. 2 offers max, but one should be like the one that you're going all in on. Because what happens is most of my students in this stage, they jump ship too soon. They change direction too soon because they didn't hit the goal. It doesn't look right, or they've seen someone else do something. I've noticed a lot of that with the students I've been working with. Well, so-and-so did it this way, so I'm going to try it that way. And I'm like, okay, but you haven't even given this way a fighting chance yet. So flip-flopping on launch strategies and promotions also can really hurt your growth. Okay, next up, you want to systematize everything you can. So with AI, this becomes a whole lot easier. So start documenting how you do things. Even if it's just you, create like simple SOPs, so standard operating principles. Like, how do you onboard a new contractor? Or how do you prepare for a launch? Or how do you send emails or post to social media? Things that may seem so simple to you, but as you start to expand your team, you don't want to repeat this stuff 100 times. So get into the habit now, early on, in documenting how you do things in your business. Keep them in a really organized Google Drive. And I promise you, you're going to be like, Amy, I'm so glad you told me to do that. I just made my first hire, and now I'm not having to repeat everything over and over again. So again, even if you're not hiring yet, this is how you prepare to delegate. And then next up, get a handle on your business finances. You don't need to be a CFO, but you do need to know your numbers. And this is a mistake I see a lot of people making well into hitting their first million, that they just don't know their numbers. So start with how much you want to pay yourself this year, then factor in your business expenses and your taxes. And this gives you a clear revenue goal. That's one way to look at it. Another way is to look at all of your offers and really see what's possible in terms of what you can generate in revenue. Now, to do that, and this is like the other layer of looking at your data, you want to look at, well, how many people do I need to show up for a webinar? Well, sign up for the webinar. Then how many people actually need to show up? And out of those that show up, how many need to convert in order for me to hit that revenue number that I want to hit? Like, that's the kind of data I want you to really get into, because you become so incredibly savvy with navigating your offers when you know your numbers at that level. Most people that are around 500K don't even know that level of detail. So get a head start. Now, if you want a deeper dive on metrics and data and really what to track and how to track it, I just did a really good podcast episode all about this. It's episode 21. So amyporterfield.com/21. Lastly, you want to reinvest intentionally. So once you've paid yourself and you've covered your business expenses, I want you to put some of that profit back into the business on purpose. So get really intentional. It's okay to stretch yourself a little here. Smart strategic risks are often what lead to the biggest rewards. Even if it feels uncomfortable, that's usually a sign that you're growing. So one place you need to do this, if you have not yet, is to hire a virtual assistant. You want to make sure that you are not doing everything for far too long, because you're losing money at that point. So hiring a virtual assistant, a VA, even if it's for 5 hours a week to start, which is how I started many, many years ago. It will absolutely allow you to work in your zone of genius and stop doing things that are slowing you down or are not really your strong suit. So I do believe reinvesting in your business around a virtual assistant and the contractors you need is a smart move. Okay, so here's the bottom line for this playbook. There's an invisible cost to early success when it isn't backed by a strong foundation. I want to repeat that one more time. There's an invisible cost to early success when it isn't backed by a strong foundation. It tends to crumble. It's like building your dream home on a cracked foundation. It might look great for a while, but it won't hold up under pressure. Because once this foundation is strong, the next level becomes so much more sustainable. That's why it's really important to fix those cracks. Let's get that foundation solid so that when you move into the next milestone, you're ready for it and you can enjoy it because it's a lot of fun, my friend. It's a lot of fun making more money and more profit. So I just want to get you ready for that. Now, if you're at this stage that I've been talking about and you're feeling unsure as to how to build a truly scalable offer, something that you can promote over and over again, well, that's exactly what Digital Course Academy will help you do. Like I said, we're not open yet, but we do officially have the wait list, and I contact the wait list first with all the bonuses and all the perks. So amyporterfield.com/DCA. Make sure you're on the wait list, and I'll tell you when we open the doors. Okay, so let's move on and talk about what comes next when you're around $500,000 and you're wanting to scale to $1 million. So let's say you're at the 500K mark and you're ready to scale and you're just not sure exactly what you should be focusing on. Well, this is what I call the Momentum to Millions playbook. And that's where we're really going to get specific on where you should be putting your time, energy, and focus. So, what made the biggest difference for me at this stage came down to three things: financial mastery, customer journey, and aligned offers. And they all work together. So, first, financial mastery. I kind of hinted at this before. Now we're getting deeper. Know your numbers. Buy each of your offers. So you look at each of your offers and you ask, what does each one really cost in time, tools, and team? And what kind of money can I actually generate from each of these offers? So if you don't have a bookkeeper at this stage, then it's time. So you should have a bookkeeper, and you don't need a CFO, so Chief Financial Officer. I've always used a fractional CFO, but it wasn't until I was making a couple million. But you definitely need to have a bookkeeper that's keeping their eye on the details. And because you're not probably ready for a fractional CFO, you might be, but if you don't feel like you're ready, and I get that, you do have to know your numbers. So here's the deal. In high school, I hated math. I was so bad at it. And then when I went to college, I was like, wait, you don't have to take math classes? I was a communication major, which some people joke that that's a joke, but I was. And there was one class that had math, statistics. And I was terrified of it, but it was pretty easy, but there were no other math classes. So I do not feel super comfortable around the numbers, but I do not let that stop me. I am definitely tracking my numbers every single week. I'm asking a bunch of questions. Now I can use ChatGPT to analyze my P&Ls and look at the data and tell me what to look for. I have a fractional CFO that helps us immensely, but I still use ChatGPT to kind of make sense of some of the numbers once we, let's say, do a launch and I've got all the data in a debrief. I'm pouring it all into ChatGPT and saying, make sense of this. What do I need to look out for? What's good? What's not? All that stuff. So coming back to you though, I want you to track profit margins in your business. And I say profit margins in terms of if you want to do it by each offer, but let's just start out simple and make sure that you know what your profit margin is at the end of every quarter. And the goal, in my opinion, for an online business is to be anywhere between 30 and 50% profit margin. And the reason I feel really comfortable saying this number is, as you know, if you listen to this podcast, I have a program called the Millie Club. And these are women making around 500K and wanting to get to the $1 million mark. One of my members just hit 1 million and we're only in June, which is so exciting. So good things happening in that group. But I see their revenue and profit margin. And I also work with women making $1 million or more, and I get to see their revenue and profit margin. And they all have online businesses. All of them have memberships, courses, or some kind of coaching. And almost everybody is between 30 and 50%. I always make it a goal to be at 40%. I don't always hit that, but it's always my North Star. And so don't freak out or be super rigid, but I do think that this is something to think about. Okay, so you want to track your profit margin, and one quarter my profit margin might be 10%, and then another quarter it might be 70%. Like we're looking for an average because one, I might spend a lot of money leading up to DCA, and then with DCA, I'm making a lot of profit there, and so it starts to balance out. So it's not like every quarter you should be hitting 40%. Just want to be clear. Okay, so you're going to track your profit margin. You're going to track the data, amyporterfield.com/21. That might be a really great episode for you to revisit if you've listened to it, maybe didn't take notes, or if you haven't heard it yet, go check out that episode. But then I want to move on to you building your customer journey around your most profitable offers. So let's talk about that. I believe that your business should grow with your ideal customer avatar. This isn't true for everybody, but on this podcast, I take you behind the scenes. I share with you what works in my business and what's working for my students. And having a business that can grow with your ideal customer avatar can be really lucrative. Because think about it. If down the road you create the next level of whatever it is that you offer, and it's for people who already bought, let's say, your first program, now you're not having to find a huge new audience, which is so hard. List building's hard, lead generation's hard, all of it. And so imagine if you were able to understand who your audience was or is and what they need, then you're not always having to get new people into the mix to make the kind of money you want to make. So oftentimes you can look at what you're offering, and when it's dialed in and when you've launched it several times, no jumping ship too soon. When you feel ready, you could say, okay, what would be the next level for people who have gone through this program of mine? So let me give you an example. I have Digital Course Academy. And for those who enroll in Digital Course Academy, after the 10 weeks that we are together, I invite them into Momentum, which is my $97 membership. The only people that can get into Momentum are those that have enrolled in Digital Course Academy. They don't have to be done with their course. They don't have to go through the whole program and show me that, because Momentum, after the 10 weeks of DCA, if they're not ready to launch yet, which most people aren't, I help you create the course and create all the marketing assets and get your whole launch ready. So you might not be ready to launch at 10 weeks. Well, then they go into Momentum and they've still got the support and the community around them to make sure that they get to the finish line and they do launch that course again and again and again. I have some people in Momentum who have launched their course 9 times and some 5 times, 7 times. So it's a really cool community. Anyway, it's what I offer on the back end of Digital Course Academy. So my advice to you is, before creating something new, number one, make sure that you have a core program that's locked in, that is making you consistent revenue, whether you launch it a few times a year live or you have it on Evergreen, whatever that might be. You've got to give it the attention to make sure it's doing well. The conversions are where you want them to be. And then you can start thinking of, okay, what else could I offer when people finish this program? Okay, so that leads me to aligned offers. So when you're thinking about your offers, keep it simple and clear. Less is more. Less is more. I don't want you having 5 offers. I don't want you having 2 digital courses, a membership, maybe some physical type of product, a coaching program over here, a VIP over there. It's just too much. So less is more. I'm telling you, that's how you get to $1 million. Less is more. Because if you have less, you get really good at messaging what you do have. So each offer that you have created should have a purpose, a person it's for, and a natural place in the journey. If it doesn't, it's probably time to rework it. So I'll say that again. Each offer you have, if I sat with you at coffee right now and I said, okay, what's the purpose or the transformation of this course you have? And you tell me, and then I'll say, okay, who is it for? You tell me your ICA. And then I say, okay, great. Where does it fit in their journey of whatever it is they ultimately want? And you should be able to tell me pretty quickly. If any of that is kind of mucky, I just think I made up that word, then it's time to go back and rework it. So the bottom line is scaling to 1 million is a whole lot easier when you're clear on your numbers, your offers are profitable, and your journey guides people to keep growing with you, meaning you don't have to keep finding new people to sell to. I mean, we always will. We're marketers. We're always wanting to grow our email list, but feeling like you just created something, now you have to get a whole new audience for it. That's not the way you scale. So I'd rather you continue to build and create for the audience you've already attracted. Okay. So if you're scaling and you've already hit $1 million, then this next section is for you. A lot of people who listen to my podcast might not be here yet, but it's kind of cool to hear when, not if, when I get here, here's some things I want to think about. So you've hit $1 million and you want to scale even more. So this is for you. You need the leadership expansion playbook. So at the $1 million level, leadership becomes everything. In my Made to Scale mastermind, we talk about this all the time. Leadership, you being a great leader and you finding leaders for your team. So if you're still in the weeds, your growth will stall. So especially at this $1 million mark. So this is where it's less about what you do and more about who does it with you. Because in the last milestone, you got really clear about what you do and how you do it best. Now you need to make sure you have the people on your team to help you scale. It's interesting. Many of the women in my Millie Club, shout out to you girls, a lot of them do not have full-time team members. And if they do, they have very few. That's not for everybody, but most. So even at that 500K mark, you could still be using a lot of contractors and probably have your hands in more things than you'd like to admit. But at that $1 million mark that you want to scale, now it's time to build that team. So here's what I want you to focus on. Build a real leadership team. You need a true right hand, someone who owns outcomes and thinks strategically, and you need people to lead different departments. So real quick, I have a leadership team. We call them the first team. And it's made up of my chief marketing officer and my CEO, my director of customer experience, my director of ops, and my vice president of product development. And all of these people, but one, have been with me for at least 5 years, if not more, which is so cool. So these people are running each of their own departments and they meet every single week as a leadership team. And then every quarter, I meet with them in person at a leadership retreat. So the CEO manages all of the people I just mentioned. So I don't go to the leadership meeting now every week, which is a really weird thing for me. That was decided about 2 years ago. So my CEO runs it. But every quarter, I get to spend time with these beautiful leaders and really just make sure we're all moving in the right direction and dealing with a lot of issues because every business has them. Okay, so that's the first thing. I want you to have a leadership team. Even if it's smaller than mine, that is okay. Second, clarify ownership. Not everyone can report to you. So you want to define the roles, hand off decisions, empower your team to lead. I was dealing with one of the women in my Made to Scale mastermind. I say I was dealing with her like it was negative. I got to work with her. And one of the things we were talking about was everyone is reporting to her. And she's like, I think it was like 8 people. That's a lot. So finding a right hand where a lot of that management could go to the right hand to manage other people is so good. So the only people I manage on my team now are my CEO, Jaws, and my executive assistant, Christine. We call her Queenstein because she saves my life. So those are the only 2 people that I manage. And that was a long time coming. You got to remember where I'm at in my journey, but it's something to look forward to. Okay. Number 3 is to communicate like a CEO. So you want to share the vision often, give regular updates, and keep your team aligned and focused. I'm not saying that at the $1 million mark, you must have a CEO. It still might be you at the very tippy top, and then the next person might be a director or a VP or something like that. But what I want to make sure of is that you're clear on your vision and your leadership team is communicating that vision with other people on the team, whether they be team members or contractors. Okay. And then let go to grow. So you want to stay in your zone of genius. You want to let others take the lead where they can and trust them to do it well. So you can't do everything. Get really clear on your zone of genius. Spend most of your time there. The bottom line for this playbook is the more clarity and ownership your team has, the more freedom you'll have to lead, not just manage. And also, let's be honest here, the more freedom you'll have to create the life outside of business that you've always wanted to create. All right, so let's go ahead and wrap up. First of all, I hope this episode gave you a clear, grounded plan for what's next, depending on where you are in your journey. Remember, scaling isn't about doing more. It's about doing the right things at the right time. And that should reflect the business and life that you actually want. So really paying attention to, okay, what kind of life do I want? What kind of schedule do I want? What kind of personal experiences do I want to create? And how do I fit my business into that versus you trying to fit your personal life into your business, which is the mistake I made early on, which is why I don't romanticize that. And I really want you all to focus on first, what do you want personally? And how do you make the business work for you? Okay. Again, there's no one size fits all playbook because you change at every stage and the world is changing fast. So at every one of these milestones, you want to do kind of a gut check and reevaluate. And here's the thing, if you are ready to create a scalable offer so that either you can hit the 100K mark if you're not there yet, or go from 100K to 500K or 500K to a million, I can promise you right now, a well-crafted and strategically marketed digital course will get you there. I've seen it over and over and over again with my students. So remember, Digital Course Academy is opening in September. And what I don't want you to say to me is, Amy, I want to join so bad, but I don't have the money to do so. Now's the time to start thinking, okay, how can I put a little bit aside for the next few months so that when those doors open, I don't miss it again. So it's amyporterfield.com/DCA. Get on the wait list and you'll be the first to know. And all the perks that come out at the very beginning and tend to expire right away, you're going to be the first to know. So thank you so much for hanging out with me today. I love sharing these details of growth and scaling for your business. And I'm going to see you next week, same time, same place.